Miami at Texas A&M is the game that I want to break down first. Saturday, noon Eastern Time, 11 a.m. local time kickoff. In College Station, Texas, we will be on hand for this game. We will have been in Norman the night before, and I will be on hand with several friends of the program, actually, whose identities will be made public as the week goes on. They're on the sidelines for this one. Let's just set the table for this, because it's obviously the first playoff appearance for A&M. It's the first playoff appearance for Miami. Kyle Field, I don't care if they kick it off at 7 a.m., 7 p.m. It's going to be a factor here. A&M 7-0 at home this season. You may not have much appreciation for that, and you may not respect their schedule this year. I don't really care. I've been at that place. Like last time, I think we were there. Jesse, was it the Missouri game? Yeah, we were there, and they blew out Missouri. So Miami, here's the funny thing about this. Miami went up to Pitt last game of the regular season. Remember, the kickoff temperature was in the low 30s, and I was terrified for them. And it turns out I shouldn't have been, because they made easy work of Pitt. And because Miami went and won a game in 30-degree weather, their reward is now playing a game in 70-degree weather. That's right. I've been checking the long-range forecast here, and many things will come into play, but weather will not. We're looking at low 70s and sunny at kickoff. So thank you, God. Look at God smiling down on us as only He can. Who is the strength here? Well, both of them. So whose strength tops the other's strength? Let's dive into this. Miami profiles as the best run defense that A&M has seen this year. I believe that. All right, so we have the paper here. That's what the paper says. I do believe that to be the case. A&M, top 25 run offense. It is a critical part, obviously, of their offensive game plan, as it is most teams outside of Alabama in this playoff. Ironically, Alabama and Oklahoma are the two teams in the playoff that don't run the ball very well. They face each other in round one. Everybody else gives it the good old college try to run the ball, A&M especially so. So Miami can get after you. Now, Miami can get after the passer as well, but really, when you look at this, okay, from a standard run profile perspective, Miami figures to really limit you. But then you think to yourself, but first off, have they seen a rushing attack like A&M's at its best? Remains to be seen. Maybe not. And then part B is, doesn't A&M also possess the ability to run the ball at the quarterback position? Yes, they do. Marcel Reed. Now, he doesn't do it every game, but he'll just randomly pop a 40-yard run on you. I'll just add this note. I think the quarterback run being an integral part of A&M's success here is pretty unlikely. It's a huge hinge point, but I'll tell you why I think it's unlikely. We were diving into this earlier today. Miami has faced their fair share of mobile quarterbacks this year. This is a Post-it popper, because I had to write it on a Post-it. Byron Brown, Kevin Jennings, DJ Lagway, Tommy Castellanos, and Kyron Drones. Miami faced all of them this year. Out of those 5 mobile quarterbacks, would you like to guess how many combined rushing yards those quarterbacks had against Miami? That would be 74. Not average, 74 combined rushing yards. So, unless Marcel Reed and Texas A&M completely invert that stat category, I don't expect him to do a ton of damage with his legs. What they could do is a ton of damage on the ground, but that would also have to invert the stat profile that I expect Miami to carry into this game. It's a huge hinge point, because if A&M can run the ball effectively, it opens up the entire offense. And I'm not saying if they don't run the ball effectively, they can't. I just think you get where I'm going there. If they can't, it just falls on Marcel Reed's arm. So if they crack the code, that's great. And it helps Marcel Reed, and it gets him in second manageable, third and short. The entire playbook is at their disposal. But if it's a lot of obvious passing downs, we all watched Marcel Reed struggle at times with interceptions. In fact, 3 of his final 5 games of the regular season, he had multiple interceptions. So that's one side of the equation, but I think it profiles the same way on the other side of the equation. A&M's probably way more likely to shut down Miami's ground game than Miami is to totally shut down A&M's. Because A&M specializes in running the ball. Miami's 77th in the country in rushing offense. So that's where Carson Beck walks into the room. And I think Carson Beck started the season and they won the Notre Dame game. Then they had some games where, why aren't they pushing the ball down the field more? Is he hurt? Wow, he just doesn't look special. And then people kind of gave up on him. But if you watched him in his final 3 games, 81% completion percentage guy. He was averaging nearly 300 yards per game passing, 10-1 touchdown to INT ratio. So Carson Beck played his best ball down the stretch. Quick 5-second timeout. Check and make sure you're subscribed to the channel. It keeps it free. We love you. All right, back to the show. And he's going to face a top 10 pressure rate defense here. Their number one are the Texas A&M Aggies in sacks per game. So I leave it up to a veteran quarterback to be able to manage, move around in the pocket a little bit, buy himself a little bit of extra time. A lot of it's just on that Miami offensive line, and this is where going on the road's real tough because you do not play in environments like this in the ACC. You don't play in many of them like this anywhere. So, again, 11 a.m. kickoff, 11 p.m. kickoff, whatever, it's going to be tough for them. They're going to make it really tough for them there, especially if Miami is not able to start fast and grab an early lead. So what I'll watch especially is not can Carson Beck make the plays. He'll make some plays here. They'll move the chains here. How much does Miami have to focus their passing attack on Malachi Toney? Really good player, really good wide receiver there. So much so that he's had more production than the next two behind him have at Miami. And that is notable because Texas A&M, another paper popper to watch here, they have held wide receiver ones under 40 yards receiving half a dozen times this year. Now, you hadn't faced half a dozen Malachi Toneys, would be my retort if I were the Miami Sports and Information Department, friends of the program, and they would be right about that. That's why it's a prediction. That's why it remains to be seen. But I think it does come down to quarterbacks under pressure, in all seriousness. As I said, Marcel Reed, if he is part of a balanced attack, and if they're running the ball and he's just kind of working off that in a complimentary fashion, great, game on. But if not, like I said, 3 of his final 5 games, multiple INTs. The thing I love about Texas A&M, one of the sort of big personnel edges here is I think they've got a deeper and more versatile group of weaponry offensively. Like, they don't have to focus in on one guy as much as Miami does Malachi Toney. But also, like, even within that, A&M was banged up at the skill positions, as was pretty much every other team towards the end of the year. So these 2 to 3 weeks off, what does it do in terms of freshness? Like, does Mario Craver come out in this game looking like he's shot out of a cannon? Because that's going to happen case by case with some of these teams. So as you look at the way, the different ways, rather, this game could go, I think if you have a game where they kind of start off feeling each other out and, you know, you got a ball that goes off a DB's fingertips and you're breathing this sigh of relief like, oh, man, and we're not running the ball all that great and we just put it in the air. That could have been disastrous. If that kind of stuff happens early, I think the game could grind to a halt. I think scoring in the game could grind to a halt. And I think no matter what with Miami, the big question as it goes on, like once you feel it out, once your guys settle in, and there will be a period of that for Miami offensively, how bold is Shannon Dawson willing to get here? Because Miami trusts their defense to win this game. Texas did, and Miami will. Is that the way the game starts to play out? Because Miami's defense, they're really good at preventing catbuster plays. Those are plays of 40+. And A&M is 79th in explosive plays, 88th in catbusters defensively. So you can pop them. And that's one of the big statistical edges Miami has. You've typically had to drive the field and several plays and extend a drive and whatnot to score on Miami. A&M will give up explosive plays here, but that's given that Carson Beck can stretch the field. That's given that guys other than Malachi Toney step up, and that's given Shannon Dawson feels like his guy has enough time to where they can dial it up. So let's take a look at what the model thinks on this game. FanDuel's got Texas A&M -3.5 right now. The model is a little bit higher on Texas A&M. We got Texas A&M -5.5. Neither of these big opening round matchups I have a great feel on. So I was very close to picking Miami outright earlier today, but then I talked myself over to, I think if there's a more consistent ground game here, it's likely to be A&M. So, you know, if I've got these other variables, I'll lean on the more dependable ground game. But then I talked myself off that, and I said, man, I don't know if anyone's going to dependably run the ball on Miami. So then I thought about home field and what it could mean. So I don't really have a strong feel on the game. Therefore, I'll just ride the model. I'll have fun watching it there, as we all will. I'll take Texas A&M to win and cover, and we're not betting a dime on it. No strong feel whatsoever. I will say it's crazy that Ohio State's sitting there and they're awaiting the winner of this game. And if it's A&M, they could have to play, they get to, / have to play them in Arlington. I think that's what happened last year, though, isn't it, Jesse? Ohio State had to play Texas in Texas. So no matter what, you're playing a really, really good team here, and you're going to play them in Dallas.